What is up, YouTube? My name is Happiness, and welcome to my channel. So, yes, guys, it seems like this thing of white genocide is being debunked because, yes, after that podcast on Piers Morgan's show that has came out, now it seems like, yes, everybody can now agree that there is no white genocide in South Africa, but I want us to take a look and so that you can hear from the white people, our white South Africans, in this video, to which they will explain to you for a mere fact that, of course, indeed, there is no white genocide in South Africa, and by in that way, they themselves are debunking the fact that white farmers are being killed in South Africa. So yes, let us check this video out, and then yeah.
Let me bring in Dr. Roots. So your position is that there's a white genocide. So to which I just want to start by saying there were 26,232 murders last year in South Africa, according to the South African Police Service figures. Of those, 44 were killings of people within the farming community, and of those, 8 were farmers. So my obvious question from those statistics alone is, where is the evidence of a white genocide?
Well, thank you, Piers, and I'm glad that you asked the question like that, because I have to be very clear that this has never been my position, that there is a white genocide. Our position is, however, that we have a very serious problem in South Africa with genocidal rhetoric, with politicians chanting, encouraging a white genocide, encouraging this. And unfortunately, I have to add, we have a very serious problem with the legal system protecting people when they chant about genocide, when they chant about exterminating minorities. And unfortunately, I have to add, we have a very serious problem with journalists trying to defend this chant. So it is a serious problem, and there are other crime phenomena as well in South Africa. But what makes the farm attacks particularly unique is a variety of factors. One, that it's happening in disproportionate numbers, because you have to consider the size of the group within context. Secondly, the very, very unique levels, extreme levels of brutality that affect these farmers. And then what also makes this a very unique crime phenomenon is it's the only crime phenomenon that I can think of in the South African context that is actively romanticized and encouraged by politicians, and with regard to which the romanticization thereof is protected by the justice system and defended by journalists.
Okay, Dan Corder, I've been doing a lot of research in the last...
It's not true.
Hang on, Sophie.
I just want to defend the journalist. No, I want to clarify. No journalist in this country has defended or supported any crime in this country directed to any citizen in this country. And two,
can I make a quick response?
The very same people today who are talking about, they have been saying the justice system in this country is very independent. The Constitutional Court ruled that this chant, it's not unconstitutional. What must we do as journalists? Must we violate the laws of the country when the highest court in the land has made a ruling?
Sophie, sorry to jump in again, but I do want to
let... there's no genocide.
I do want to let the other panelists have a chance to speak. I would just say we should all be able to agree that any political leader who chants, kill the Boers, kill the farmers, whoever he says he should kill, it's disgusting, it's outrageous, it shouldn't be happening. I've taken him on about it directly, Julius Malema on Twitter. He didn't like it, but you know what? Tough. He's actually calling for people to be killed, and I don't care how long he's done it for, it's completely wrong. What I would say though, Dan Corder, it's interesting to hear Dr. Roots say that he does not support the notion of a white genocide. I'm not really sure that there's any evidence for a white genocide. What there's evidence of, and Johan Rupert made this point, I thought, very powerfully in the Oval Office, is that there's evidence of a massive crime problem, that there are an unbelievable number of murders in South Africa, predominantly of black people, and that's the real crisis that needs to be dealt with.
Okay, guys, I just want to add on what they're saying. Well, here in South Africa, most of the problem is that it is due to poverty and the standard of living to which, when you work for any place where you could think of, when you're working for any place, you find that due to the low pay, a person is tempted to do robbery or crime because he needs to support himself, support his family. So in terms of this, I would say that when they are trying to justify white genocide, it is normally the fact of on the farms, most of the farm workers, you find that they will commit crime because of their bosses not paying them meaningfully enough for them to survive. So that's what I can add, but let's just continue.
Totally, Piers. Thank you for having me. So I think that there are three things that we need to just agree that all the data supports and affirms in South Africa, and this comes from independent regulatory bodies, from independent researchers from around the world in South Africa. The first one is that the vast majority of white South Africans live a better quality of life now than the vast majority of black South Africans currently living will ever be able to live and could dream of living. So that's point one. Point two, crime patterns are absolutely clear across this country. The richer and whiter you are, and usually based on what I've just said, the whiter you are, the richer you are. That's an undeniable correlation based on historical rigging of our economic system during and before apartheid. The richer and whiter you are, the less likely you are to suffer crime, and the poorer and blacker you are, the more likely you are to suffer crime. And then thirdly, there is no evidence of targeted race-based murders in this country. There's not been a single land seizure in this country by the government or others based on race. And I want to speak to what Ernst Rutz said. It's crucial to point out this, that he talks about the particular brutality, allegedly, of farm murders without countenancing the fact that the vast majority of murders in this country affecting all kinds of people are particularly brutal and awful and garish. It's not unique to farm murders. It happens all the time in all communities. It is ghastly and awful. It's not a specific plight of the farmer. And Ernst claims that you need to count like the number of farm murders in line with the proportion of how many people there are. Actually, if you look at the data, farmers, whiter farmers, suffer less crime than black farmers and farmers of color because they are better protected by their wealth, which is often a corollary with their race. It actually turns out that when you count the beans, white farmers are absolutely not being disproportionately sufferers of crime. What really happens, Piers, in farming communities around the country is that in a farming community, there are many poor people for whom the only place that they can gain work is a farm, and the only source of
and let me just say before what this guy is going to try to say, hence I would continue to try to support what he's going to try to say at the moment. The only reason why they would commit theft is because of the pay. And what he's talking about at the moment is that they are living under poor conditions, and hence their bosses don't pay them that well. So what do? They end up doing theft. That's why you find that they'll say that we come to a point of saying that we have crime in South Africa, which does not again support white genocide.
of wealth in that area is the farm. And so crime out of necessity to try and steal something to gain wealth, while very regrettable, it makes sense that it happens. It makes sense that it targets the source of wealth, the source of income, and the source of value. That happens all across the country. And there were crime stats that came out, if I can just finish, Piers, because crime stats came out 3 days ago that are super relevant to this. And thank you for the crime stats that you spoke about earlier. But crime stats came out 3 days ago from the first quarter of South Africa this year, 1 Jan to 31 March. There were around 5,700 murders across the country. There were 6 murders involving people who work on farms. 5 of them were people of color. 1 of them was a white person. 2 farm owners died. They're both black. 3 of the farm laborers who died were black, and the 1 white person was a farm dweller. So we are not here to allow the spin of data to make it sound like it is worse to be a white farmer than any other group in this country, because it is simply not true. And SAPS, the South African Police Force, was questioned earlier this year because there were allegations of undercounting farm murders. SAPS went through all of those complaints and found that only 1 of the names of a person who was allegedly murdered in the last year who was involved in a farm had already been counted in the previous quarter of the statistics. The actual group of people who are undercounted in terms of how much they suffer crime are impoverished people and black people, because those are the stories that don't end up with the police and don't end up.
So let me ask you this question, which is why has Donald Trump been lent on, do you think, by so many people, possibly we assume including Elon Musk, who's obviously is South African himself? What do you think is going on here to make Donald Trump, President of the United States, take on the South African president in the way that he did?
The vast majority of Donald Trump's political project is that America is under assault, and by that he means white America. And he is completely anti any immigration or any flowing in of people from other parts in the world, whether legal or otherwise, whether it be a student at a university or somebody jumping the border to try and find out.
Well, to be fair, he's not special. Hang on.
Let me finish.
He hasn't. Hang on one second. No, I can't let you say something without challenging it if I think it's wrong. When you say that he's predominantly aiming this for the white population of America, what has he said that's ever? Well, what's he ever said that suggests that? I've never heard him say, "I want to protect the white people in America." He said, "I want to protect Americans of all kinds, white, black, whatever." You might think that he's never said it.
Yeah, but Piers, come on, a wink and a nudge is as good as a communication. Let's be real about this.
I don't agree. No, I think it's lazy. I think it's lazy to do that.
No, you haven't even let me finish, though, and this show is called...
Yeah, because you made a statement about Trump I don't think is true.
Okay, so I haven't even finished about why he's obsessing with this. Let me finish my idea, and then you can critique it as much as you like. It is your show. Okay, so Donald Trump largely goes after immigrants, and he criticizes the immigrants who are of color from countries in the world that he calls S-hole countries. I don't know if we can swear on this show, but that was a quote about most African countries.
We're uncensored, right? Say what you like.
Shithole countries. Okay, so but that's a quote from the American president. So what is different about the South African white farmer plight versus all the other refugee programs that he's cancelled, including 10,000 applications that are live and would have reached the fruition of like Afghani people who helped the Americans in Afghanistan getting safe haven in America, is the fact that these are white refugees. There are no white refugees being denied passage from any other country in the world. This fits the narrative that Trump really loves, that there are white people under attack, that the identity of white America is under attack, that they're going to be washed away, the great replacement theory. In my opinion, Piers, and you're welcome to disagree with me, you can see that everyone who Trump dislikes is either a person of color or a white person who disagrees with them. Those are the only 2 categories. And for him, under Elon Musk...
that is complete, I'm sorry, that is complete and utter nonsense.
Give me another example then.
He said Keir Starmer, the British Prime Minister, should be in jail. Last time I checked, Keir Starmer's white. It's ridiculous. He attacks white people all the time.
I said 2 categories. I said white people who disagree with his politics or people of color.
Keir Starmer disagrees with his politics.
Keir Starmer's been bashed by the MAGA right for so long. And if Keir Starmer doesn't follow Trump's ideas about Ukraine or about Starlink, then Keir Starmer is in his crosshairs. It's as simple as that. It's always been the case.
Right. I think everyone's... Listen, I have been in Trump's crosshairs after the last interview we did. He didn't talk to me for 6 months. Last time I checked, I'm white. It's fine. He whacks anyone. He whacks anybody that has a go at him. Anyway, let me bring in Gareth. He's been waiting patiently, pulling a few faces, I might add. So I didn't know, for example, that the 7% of South Africans are white, but that they own half of the land in South Africa, which is quite an extraordinary statistic.
Nope. Not half of the land. They own 70% of the land. But, okay, let's just continue. But, even I know one landowner who owns a portion of land, and he has, he's one man, but he has acres and acres of land. by himself. I mean, like, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense, but
But I've also been reading stuff in the last couple of days since the big Oval Office bust-up that a lot of people feel that the expected retribution against the white population post-Mandela never really came in the way that people feared, and that not enough acknowledgement is made about that. What do you feel about that? You think is that true? Is that your feeling as a South African?
We have an incredible story in this country, and for 30 years we've told that story internationally, and it's gained us huge credit on the international stage, which I think we deserve post 94. What hasn't happened is that our government hasn't been treated like adults by the international community since then, because we've been coddled, and the international left has used South Africa as an example for their own ends, not necessarily because it's true for us, of what a sort of open society golden utopia might be. I think that this is the first time, and I didn't enjoy watching our president humiliated in the White House. I don't think that that's good for any country's leaders to have to go through, but it certainly was a recognition that South Africa is being treated as an adult country in the international community that must account for itself. And if Trump believes that those are the things that we need accounting for, then that's his right as the leader of the United States.
It's his right, but is he actually right when it comes to the facts? Many people say that this concept of a white genocide in South Africa is fiction, and it's being perpetrated by people on the kind of equivalent MAGA right in South Africa, who have somehow got into some of the...
which is the truth. AfriForum.
The senior Trump people, maybe Elon Musk, maybe some of the others, and they've convinced them that this is a real thing that needs to be dealt with, and Trump has reacted accordingly. And actually, it may be the catalyst for all this is based on a falsehood.
Certainly, I agree with Ernst, and it seems our panel is all in agreement about the fact that we don't regard what's happening here as a genocide. I think that that's something that Trump has misread in terms of the situation. What I do think is happening, there are certainly race-based laws in this country which need some addressing. There are certainly issues around economic equality, which are brought up all the time. The only equality I think that you can guarantee as a government is equality in law. And I think that that's something which requires a bit of attention. Furthermore, I also think that we do have very genuine problems, as already indicated by the other people on this panel, with crime, with violence, with a government which has made very, very bad friends internationally. And given the opportunity to make the right decision, they almost always do the opposite. So I think that that's probably worthy of some inspection and some interest from the largest trading partner, or certainly among the largest trading partners that we have, and one of the most powerful countries in the world. So if it gets us a little bit of attention and gets the government to deliver, because the vast majority of people in this country are poor and rely on the state for everything. And the state has done an absolutely dreadful job. And if that is a piece of information that came across to the entire world in that horrible Oval Office meeting, then I think that that's a piece of information that has some value.
Okay, guys, so there you heard all the white people in South Africa do agree that there is no white genocide. They do agree that the only thing that is causing what they would consider as for all these white Trump trying to insist that there is a white genocide is because of the crime of our country, of South Africa. So yes, they just debunked the fact that it does not exist at all, that there is no white genocide in South Africa. And I bet now the whole world now does agree that yes, indeed, there is no white genocide in South Africa. So the claim has been debunked. Okay, guys, thank you for watching my channel. Please like and subscribe, and yes, let's meet up to the next video, and peace out.